So I had like five exports that I wanted to talk to folks about and build through, but there's also a lot of work in those feature engineering videos that I did two of those as a follow-up to my Slate Summit session from 2025. I think it's the workbench walkthroughs on feature engineering, where I am building in much more detail and depth these kinds of things. But I think this is a good amount of content that we're covering for today. So as we start transitioning to our runes of practice and some advice for doing this kind of work in your own instance of Slate, what we're really trying to do is compare, at least today, that lifetime engagement level with recent activity. So you could do a dedicated field of that decelerating engagement. You could have just a report that looks at certain levels of engagement of the student has an engagement score over 50, but over the last month, their engagement, they've only added 3 points to their engagement. And as you start looking at your data and start understanding the behaviors of your prospect pool, you start seeing where those warning bells are and who you need to dial the phone on. Because this is, again, flashing marquee, red sirens are going off. This student is at risk for not coming. And maybe this is a student that was super engaged or highly likely to enroll, but something happened. Maybe you saw this change when transfer credit evaluations or financial aid awards were made available, or that information. Or maybe we're seeing this at an ED1 notification, and you just start to understand, like, oh, okay, yeah, this student got admitted somewhere else. One thing that I have found successful at other institutions was asking students, like, hey, ED1 deadline kind of passed. If you got accepted somewhere else, it's your responsibility to notify other applications to withdraw your application. If you don't want to send that to the entire prospect pool, you could just say, like, oh, okay, yeah, this group of students is likely got admitted ED to another school. That's why their engagement's dropping off. You can send a more targeted email instead of your entire applicant pool. So there's a lot of work that you can do with the either re-engaging students or just segmenting data to better communicate with them in some capacity. So when you start looking at not just what their engagement is, but actual changes in it, especially recently, it allows you to understand your student better. And when you have that understanding, you can engage with them in a more meaningful way. So adding calculated fields for like days since last event even, so it's not necessarily this full-blown secondary score that you're looking at, could allow you to highlight these students who were going through the funnel very well, but they're changing their historical pattern with your institution. They haven't opened emails, or they haven't visited campus, or they haven't engaged with their portal. That was one of the other pieces. If you're doing like a login, portal login, make sure you're doing things like direct login, so you're not counting impersonations. If you're getting emails in from students, that's a certain type of, and the message data table, looking not at like ad hoc emails, or not looking at deliver mailings or form communications. External messages are the ones that are coming in. If you have a lot of concern about high school counselors or parent emails that are being added to the student's timeline, but you're looking very specifically at, I want to know when the student is emailing us, you can do, again, another email comparison, looking at who the sender was and doing comparisons against the student's emails. That gets a little trickier if they have like multiple emails on file. But there is work that you can do, and just there are nuances to pulling that data in a clean way that just be mindful of. So you have raw data, you have the aggregated data, but then you can start putting this together through maybe it's populations, and you can start establishing personas of students who are decelerating, like a ghosted Greg, who was really engaged. We were really resonating with them. They were connected to our campus, but they're starting to pull back. And it could be very fast, could be very strongly. So having criteria for what is a ghosted Greg and slotting the student into that persona and having more tailored, personalized, or human outreach that you can't afford to send to 101 students, or you can't afford to. What is the ridiculous number of records they have in this clean slate? It's like 105,000. But if you know you have 20 ghosted Gregs they were on track. We were fully expecting them to come, and something happened, and we just need to be able to reach out. Maybe their friend told them that the school was too expensive, or they would never be successful at the school, or whatever it could be. And being able to ease those fears, that you're not going to know that they had this bad conversation with a peer or a parent or a counselor. And maybe that's justified, and maybe the school isn't the right fit for them, but maybe they need to talk to someone to understand if that fit is right. So being able to offload as much of the calculations and the work to identify these students to Slate, the better. So you can start establishing those criteria based off of your historical data, and then just a population that just slots them into Ghosted Greg, and maybe you just have a recurring email or a call list or cadence, what fun new Slate tools that just slots them in front of a person to say, hey, reach out to this person, find out what's going on. And populations are a great way to just kind of slot them in. Or maybe it's an automated email that comes from their staff assigned, asking them, hey, just checking in. How are you feeling about your college? And don't just like, hey, just checking in email, but like follow that with detailed questions. Like, hey, how are you feeling about college? How are you feeling about your student journey? What's going on? Start that conversation. And then when they reply, then you can get that more human touch with those students. So you identify those high scores, low recent engagement, and then you can connect them with the resources that are going to be impactful, or at least let you know, like, hey, yeah, huge family issue, don't have the money, don't have the time to go to college anymore, or I can't go out of state to your college, I'm going something local. And at least you're having that conversation and you're understanding, like, okay, yeah, totally understandable. Maybe you have some kind of override with like a contact form that's just like, okay, this person is 0% likelihood to attend. And we're not going to bug them. Maybe they want to withdraw their application. Maybe they want to opt out of communications, or maybe it's just like, hey, you're still in consideration, but I'm not actively pursuing you because of these things that are going on with my life. So you're not overly bugging them, trying to get them to engage. Maybe you're just meeting them on their time. And when you do start having, whether it's the personas or fields or the entities, to at a glance or quickly pull this kind of information, that allows you to do conditional formatting, whether it's in the portal for the students, some kind of staff portal, whether it's emails. Maybe when you start seeing there is some trick that your institution has. Like when someone does fall into Ghosted Greg, we do this. Maybe whether that's a call to action, maybe it's a way that you're communicating with students in certain recurring emails or campaigns. You have a Slate data point that you can drive that conditional logic or formatting or a Slate report that allows you to identify this early risk, make it visible to the staff, make it visible or accommodate the student who is falling into this early alert system. As there is nuance with building it, there is nuance with outreach. You don't want to just, hey, whether this is an admissions or a current student, like, hey, we think you need these additional resources, because then that's a whole layer of self-perception, self-confidence. If you tell someone they're failing, they're going to fail kind of thing. So throughout this entire process, make sure that you're treating this with the proper amount of care and infusing it with the human aspect of understanding who's on the other end. It's not just a Slate record. It's not just a data point. It's people understanding where they're coming from, what's happening, and being able to be a resource for them and their journey. And this is just a way to help get the right students in front of you to do that.